The following program is rated TVMA. This program may contain strong opinions, explicit language, and possible adult themes. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the Smoke Free Radio Network or its affiliates. This program is meant for mature adult audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Welcome back, everybody, for another week of Vaping in the Mic. We're going to be talking tonight with Mr. David Goerlitz, the former Winston man. We're going to connect with him in a little bit of a different way than we did the last time. The last time gave us a little bit of an issue as we were going along. And right now I'm just waiting to be able to connect with him online. And it is, I know that he's there. We worked this out earlier today, and everything was really, really wonderfully smooth. But right now I've got to get back in touch with him. And as soon as I do, I know that it's going to work out really, really nicely because it's just, it's great software to run. So as soon as I can get in touch with him, we will get that portion of our show started. A lot of people, if you have not noticed, in the vaping world right now, if you haven't been paying attention, today is the last day to get your comment into the FDA for the ANPRM on flavors. Remember, because the FDA wants to ban all the flavors and everything that we do. So they put out this advanced notice for rulemaking, the ANPRM. But there are several websites, but go to regulations.gov. You'll be able to go right to it. There are a couple of other different pieces, if you will, to be able to get into and work on. You can go to CASA, and they have a link, the Vapor Trade Association, the VTA has a link as well that you'll be able to connect with and be able to have a link to be able to get into the ANPRM. Then I've got, that would be Mr. David Goerlitz. How are you doing this evening, sir?
How are you?
I'm doing awesome. And yourself?
Lousy, thank you for asking. My hot water heater took a crap this afternoon.
Oh. Are you okay to be on the show right now? Do you need to take some time?
No, there's nothing I can do. They're coming tomorrow to put a new one in, but, like Rosanna Dana said, it's always something, right?
Most of the time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. David Goerlitz, the former Winston man, joining us this evening.
Hello, good to be here, Michael. Good to be here, my friend.
I really appreciate you taking time to reschedule. After our last show ended kind of in a debacle because I know it was me. I exceeded the limitations of the software and everything that I was using, so that was 100% my fault. But this time around, we're connecting in a very, very different fashion.
Well, last time when I was talking to you, I wanted to apologize. I think I mentioned it 3 or 4 times when I was on your show. We went about an hour and 15 minutes, I guess, and I talk a lot, and every 3 to 4 words I would say, it would come back and reverb in my ear.
And that was one of the biggest things, because I know that having reverb like that is a real pain in the butt.
Well, yeah, because I'm trying to say something new, and I'm hearing everything I just said 4 words before, but hopefully that's resolved, and we won't have that problem tonight.
No. Tonight we're connecting through software instead of on the phone, and I've actually got another phone that is set up.
Okay.
Because I think that he is actually in a meeting right now, but we're going to have somebody else calling in just in a little while to be able to say hi.
Is Donald Trump calling in tonight?
I really I hope not, because that would mean I'm in deep shit.
Well, can you hear me okay now? That's all I want to ask. Can you hear me good? Are we clear?
Yes.
Are we able-
The only thing is I have. Bill Tarling said your volume is a little bit low. I don't know if your mic is a little further away than it was this afternoon.
Well, let's move around here. Let's make sure that we're all in sync here, and I want to make sure that we treat this with the utmost respect. How's that? Are we looking any better?
Yeah, to me, I can hear it just fine. Bill Tarling's telling me that it's about a quarter of the volume or a third of the volume of what I'm running. You tell me if you get any reverb on your end of anything. I'm going to turn your volume up on my mixer a little bit so people can hear you.
And I just turned mine up as well. Okay.
Oh, that is much, much better.
Okay, we're good. All right.
Fantastic.
So what's new, Michael? What's happening in Smoke Free Radio?
I'll tell you what. Everything that they've got going on in the vapor world right now is starting to turn itself upside down. As you know, today is the last day for the FDA and the ANPRM on flavors.
Right.
And I know that you and Kevin had spoken about that previously, but
yep.
It's going to be anybody's guessing game as to how that turns out.
Well, I've been doing this long enough, Michael, and I'm just going to, kick the ball from here. This is my time to punt. We are imploding. There's no question about it. And I've been saying this for a long time. I'm certainly not a psychic. I just know the tobacco industry. I just know big government. I know big pharma. And I know the anti-tobacco activists. I know exactly how they work. And they don't really give a crap about anybody or anything other than themselves. We know that. So with what's happening, I believe in my own, let me turn this down a little bit. In my own understanding of the way the FDA works, Michael, the script is written. I believe that they have already selected the cast. They know how this is going to play out in 21 and 22. And it's not going to be pretty for the vaping community. I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to pussyfoot around and pretend that everything's going to be hunky-dory with the lawsuit, suing the FDA. And I know everybody's trying. But I'm not even cautiously optimistic anymore. I just know from what I've heard, the implosion of what we got going on within our own industry, not to even mention the kind of crap that we're getting from the FDA and the anti-tobacco and campaign for tobacco-free kids. And that doesn't make me I don't want to sound negative, but everybody's going to say, well, he's so negative. And I'm not negative at all, Mike.
It's not being negative, because I'm hearing the same thing from a lot of people, even people that are in the industry. Are saying that we are on a one track, like we're on a railroad, and the track's already laid down. Yeah. And there's not much chance of jumping tracks and going somewhere else. But I remain hopeful.
Here's what I'm finding, okay? And I love most of the people in the industry. I really do. I love the people who have started this as an icon for us back in the 2011 and 12. And we don't have to go over that and mention names, even though people know who they are. You have your usual suspects. You have the people who have been in this since the beginning. And then you got the ones who really, really took off with great innovative ideas for e-liquid, for packaging, for marketing. Suspects. You got a few bucks. If you listen to all the stories of the people. And then you got the ones I know in the vaping community, none of them were multimillionaires, except for maybe Gunter Hofer from Von Earl, because he came from the Swarovski crystal family. He had a bunch of money. He is for e-liquid. Came up with Von Earl, and then, of course, he wound up selling it to Imperial Tobacco last July anyway. So, most people I talked to in the vaping community, none of them were multimillionaires.
And that's one of the biggest things, is that people in the vaping community, I find that some of them are lightly aware of what's going on. There's actually still a bulk of people that don't connect on any social media platform, or that don't connect on any kind of blog, and they have little to no clue, because their local vape shop doesn't tell them squat.
there's people who don't even know who I am, Michael. And I'm not saying I'm looking for pats on the back, but if you didn't see A Billion Lives, if you smoke Marlboros or Camels, you wouldn't know the Winston man if he tripped over you. Okay, but my place in the vaping community is only from the stance that I believe in the concept as being the best alternative for smokers to quit. And when 2% of the vapors saw A Billion Lives, and that's it. We have 9 or 10 million vapors in this country, not to mention globally, and only 2% saw the movie. They're not going to have a clue as to kind of politics that many of us have been playing since 2010, 11, 12, and 13, when the government said you cannot let the FDA regulate tobacco, and that was in 2009 with Judge Leon. So the people that I talk to, I have a lot of acquaintances, Michael. I go to these conventions. We're getting some reverb again. It's getting annoying. Can you hear the reverb, or is it just me?
It might have been something that I've done. Let me change this.
Because it was fine in the beginning, and now it's starting to...
that should clear it up. That should clear it up to where you don't have any reverb.
Okay, well, let me just tell you what I was talking about before. These people that started out a long time ago, really wonderful people, had no money other than their life savings, or they worked part-time, put 10, 15, 20,000 into it, and then became really successful because it just happened to be the right place at the right time. And there's a lot of millionaires out there now, Michael. There's a lot of people who are paying it forward and putting money where their mouth is in advocacy and crowdfunding, and looking at Naked, putting all that money in when Gonzo was looking for raising $328,000. So people have walked the walk and talked the talk. It's just the majority don't have a clue as to what we're fighting and what we're trying to do. And it's shameful when you have to try to beg people to call their congressmen or congresswomen and senators and do a survey, or call in like they're supposed to today. How many times do you have to beg people to take 5 minutes and give your comments as to why flavors are important? And then it's like pulling teeth. So then the people who are usual suspects get pissed off and don't want to do it anymore because 2 or 3% of the people are doing 100% of the work. And that's what frustrates a lot of people, including myself.
I've heard that from a lot of people that are doing both advocacy and activism for the vaping world, is they're getting seriously tired and seriously burned out because there is a decidedly large lack of people that are willing to stand up and maybe try to do something about everything.
Yeah. And the people that I go to these shows with, I went to the Chattanooga show last month, and it was just an awesome time. We had a good advocacy program. We had myself, we had Mark Anton, we had Sherwin Mina, we had Nicole from the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association. Demetrius was there, but he handed the baton off to Nicole to talk about what's going on in Tennessee.
Yep.
Since we were in that home state. And then we had Mark Anton, who's the new executive director of the Safada. And he had a horrible week coming down there because he had just been asked to remove himself from the New Jersey Vaping Rights Coalition, which is a group of people I wouldn't give you 2 cents for in New Jersey, my own home state. It's just a tremendous amount of anger that's now being formulated in my state. And Mark Anton had to come down there and do a wonderful job, as well as having stepped aside from doing all the lobbying work that he could be doing in the state of New Jersey and Trenton.
Wow.
Along with Greg Conley and Mark and myself, we're all New Jerseyans, and New Jersey is probably one of the worst states that can be involved in vaping right now because we've got a new 10 cents per mil tax that was started.
Yeah, and they're still trying to do a floor tax, correct?
They got it. It's done. As of August 1st, I believe it starts. And that's why nobody's buying any liquids right now.
Now, is that floor tax set to take effect when it does? If the floor tax continues, Is that something that is going to be collected just on a one-time basis, or is that like
No,
every month?
monthly.
And they're saying 40% floor tax.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be. I think it's close to that. I think I've heard different numbers, but the 10 cent per mil e-liquid tax is definite, and that's going to start within. I think they give them 90 days to come up with either other options, but it doesn't look like it's going to fly. So you got June, July, probably September 1, I would guess. And don't quote me on that. I think I'm within a month or so, but September 1 is when the 10 cents per mil tax. But as of August 1st, anything that's in your inventory will have to be taxed as a floor tax. So that's why no one's buying a whole lot of e-liquids right now in New Jersey, because they're going to have to pay taxes on it. And we're already saturated anyway with even my line. I mean, nobody's going to buy the David G signature series in New Jersey to get people to transition from smoking to vaping, because they're going to wind up in a 60 ml bottle paying $18 for a bottle of liquid, and not to mention the amount of money is going to be paid on the floor tax. So
The floor tax to me is something that if they were to do it once, I might be able to wrap my brain around that. But they're talking about, if that's true, every month getting hit with another 40% floor tax.
Yeah, well, that's what I hear. I've heard two different things. I heard that it's going to be monthly, but it's not going to be at the 40%. It'll be a lower rate if they spread it out. So you never know. It depends on who you talk to, Michael. And
Wow.
and I am not in the clique of the New Jersey Vapors Rights Coalition. I don't get along with these people, and a lot of people don't. So I think they only have 12 or 13 members that pay every month. And there's 300 stores, brick and mortars in New Jersey. So they get no representation whatsoever, except for Mark Anton, who's out there working his ass off for the state of New Jersey. Then he's asked to remove himself along with the other lobbyists that they have. So very political, very, very non-transparent, very frustrating. So yeah, the people who have been fighting a long time are getting pretty disgusted and shell-shocked. It's
I don't blame them.
Well, because we don't have enough wins on the column. We really don't. I mean, after $12 and $13 million was brought in by R.J. Reynolds to defeat the San Francisco flavor ban, and that failed. If we can't do it with $13 million, how are states going to do it with no money? And so it's annoying. And my frustration is that as an activist, the only way to do this is to change. If we're going to win this in the court of public opinion, and nobody is willing to put money into public relations. They want to put it all into lobbying, all into lawyers' pockets. And I think that's just so wrong on so many levels. But nobody wants to listen to me, which is why I do my own podcast now, because people, you want to hear another alternative or another side to this, rather than just keeping money coming in, giving it to lobbyists to go sit in Washington, when these Washington talking heads are not going to waffle and change their mind for the most part as far as a majority. You might get a few here and there who will listen to you, who will take you under their wing and say, hey, we understand what you're trying to do. We want to help. But their hands are going to be tied as well, because they've been so influenced by big tobacco and big pharma that they're going to have to be careful what they say and how they open up their mouth and what they do now for an organization and an industry like vaping, which is only there to save lives. And everybody's forgetting that. And the only leaders of this community, all right, the manufacturers, the distributors, the suppliers, the wholesalers, what they're doing is they are trying to rearrange chairs on a ship that's going down, Michael. And that sounds pretty negative, I know.
No, but it's true.
Well, it's true. But if you say it, then everybody gets upset that it's all doom and gloom. Well, I don't know what else to tell you. Demetrius used to really motivate a lot of people until he got so burnt, so spit, and so kicked on, and so harassed because of his ability to raise the level of awareness proportionate to the havoc that was being wreaked on the industry. But people either loved him or hate him, and most people love him, thank goodness, because he's so right. He's always been so on as far as his target audience. He doesn't. There's no filter on his mouth when it comes to telling the truth. In the beginning, you had to build an audience. I don't have to do that, because the only skin I have in the game, Michael, is my David G signature series of e-liquids, which is for a smoker wanting to transition to vaping with high nicotine and some good flavors like tobacco and coffee. And then, of course, my CBD with Pinnacle has taken me under the wing. And basically, him, Kevin Lacey from Pinnacle CBD, and Trent Struck from Vapes Gone Wild were the only two people, with the one exception. That's David Holmes from Unique E-Cigs up in Syracuse. Those are the only three people who ever supported what I was doing. And it pisses me off a lot. And, to be disrespected like that, where, the only thing I was good for was being a pole dancer at a conference, be entertainment, because I was happened to be the former Winston man. That doesn't cut it for me,
Yeah. For those people that are just kind of tuning in or joining us on Facebook or on another platform, we're talking tonight with David Goerlitz, the former Winston man. And right now, David, up on the one cast that I'm putting out to the Facebook Live so people can see pictures and whatnot, I did put up a picture of your David G line. And you said you've got three. You've got, and I'm looking at one. One is called, I think, Dreamland. And then there's a red one and a yellow one. But in the picture, I apologize that I can't read what they say.
I came up with three. I thought, and I'll just tell you my little quick story for somebody who doesn't know. When smokers quit, generally they don't want to jump right from quitting smoking to rainbow sherbet flavors. They want to, let their palate get used to a different kind of inhalation in the form of vaping with the propylene glycol. You're not going to blow big clouds with it. It's a 70-30 mix, high nicotine of 18 or 24 milligrams, because when you quit smoking, you just don't cut your nicotine off overnight.
Nope, it's got to go in steps, or it's best to go in steps.
So I decided that, a tobacco flavor was probably one of the better ones to use to start with, and then maybe merge into coffee, because I always used to associate smoking with coffee in the morning, and it was very pleasant. There's no bitterness to it. Really great liquid. And then if you really hate tobacco that bad because you've been diagnosed with, emphysema or heart disease or cancer, you don't want anything to do with tobacco, so you need something a little bit different. So very subtle, fruity flavor with not too overwhelming. And that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to get the three flavors to get people to say, hey, this is adequate. I'm getting the nicotine levels I want. The flavors are fine. Let me now change and grow exponentially with the industry. But here's where a lot of people misunderstand vaping, Michael, and don't get pissed at me. I always believed from the very beginning that when you quit smoking with vaping, eventually you're going to probably want to quit vaping, right? I mean, originally, that's what people wanted. They wanted to quit smoking. So what they were going to do is they were going to try an alternative, and that was to vape, get nicotine levels down on your own, not because Gottlieb tells you we're going to reduce it. You reduce it on your own, depending upon your circumstances, as far as stress, anxiety, fibromyalgia, pains, aches, whatever, age, obesity. And then you determine what you want. And then eventually, within 2-3 years, maybe you don't even want to vape anymore. I mean, that was originally the discussion that everybody was having in 2010, 11, and 12.
Yes, it was basically used as a true, honest-to-God cessation tool from combustible tobacco.
But then we saw what happened, which is nothing really, really, really wrong with it other than what the public perception saw. If you decided that you were going to quit smoking and vape, everybody would buy that for a while. We didn't have the cloud chasers. We didn't have the big, huge, monumental clouds. We didn't have inundation on Facebook with hand checks and 12,000 different flavors of strawberry or butterscotch or peppermint or candies. The industry was very immature. It grew too quickly, in my opinion. And from that point on, the success of vaping was taken over by people who shouldn't have taken it over. Nature should have found a way to thin the herd a long time ago, but they didn't. So what are we left with? We're left with many wonderful manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, designers, innovators. But then the majority of them should have been, buried a long time ago, with the crappy city labels.
Yeah.
And the infringement, rights about, with Fruit Loops and other candy. infringements and things. So we kind of did this to ourselves. And everybody will tell you the same thing. Everybody. Except for the people that are leading our major organizations now, which are lawyers. Because a lot of them don't even vape. So they don't have a clue what we're talking about. Just like if you talk to my wife about Russia or Putin or what's going on with the world global war that we may be in, over the next 15, 20 years, a lot of people don't care because they're so distracted with everything else in their life that's causing them angst and chaos. So for a smoker, when they quit smoking and found vaping, they found the pleasure in it. They found the flavors that they like after a while. And now the counterculture came into play where you go to an expo or you go to a convention and you get 5,000, 6,000 people who are looking for free shit, which is how the conventions were back in 2014, 15, and 16. You'd go there and people would be throwing e-liquid bottles out to you, and they'd be getting all. And Austin remembers that because he used to be the MC for all these things.
I remember seeing people throwing all kinds of things off of a stage. And the first thing that struck me was like, what happens if that hits somebody in the head? You know?
Well, it's okay if you're throwing hats and you're throwing T-shirts and things like that, to get the crowd pumped up. But that was then, and we've certainly grown from that. We don't do that anymore. I'm not saying that's happening now.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. And you were talking just a little bit ago about the Tennessee show, and you were saying the gentleman had a hard time coming down. For the people that did not know, if they're on Facebook and they're taking a look at the picture, this guy that is on this show with me right now, in this picture, is walking around with a cane. Now, he has a cane in his hand at this time during that show because just a few days before, he had a blood clot removed from his leg. And the doctors told him, okay, Mr. Goerlitz, it's time for you to sit down and do nothing. And guess what? He didn't effing listen. He hopped on a plane, an airplane, and he made it down to the show. Now, once you were down there, and I was able to see you, I gave you a big hug, and it was fantastic to be able to catch up with you again. But I'm going to say, when you got up on stage for the advocacy panel, and you were up there, and you were talking about being a bear, I watched the audience's reaction to what you were saying. And for a lot of them, it pumped a lot of people up. And for the other ones, it made their mouth drop because somebody was finally telling them what they needed to hear.
Right.
For a lot of people, it was like, oh my God, I've never heard this before. Really?
And and I appreciate those accolades. And you talk about, the day before when I had the blood clot, and it was one day before actually, and I went down there. I had my compression stocking on, and I was a little nervous about it. But it was more important for me to commit to my friends Mark Bird and Ronnie and John, and they asked me to come down there and be a part of this. And I always wanted to meet Sherwin, and I was there representing Pinnacle CBD and also Vapes Gone Wild with Trent and Victor and my line, because those two people pretty much took me off the streets and gave me an opportunity to have some skin in the game. Because there's no money in advocacy, there's no money in activism. I'm not rich. I don't have the money to do it. I never got any crowdfunding. I never had any organization support anything that I was doing. I can't even get them to call me. I mean, a phone call would be nice, but they don't. And that's old news. I mean, this has been going on for years. But they respect me and I respect them, so let's leave it at that. But in the meantime, in my own home state of New Jersey, where you're not getting any, in my opinion, you're not getting any representation with all these 300 stores who have put their money where their mouth is, built the brick and mortar stores, and now they're going to have this tax dump on them like they did in Pennsylvania, a couple years ago. And now they're happened in California. It's going to happen in every state because right now all the bonds are coming due. The billions and billions and billions of dollars of bonds that the states bought with the master settlement money. And now only way they're going to be able to make that up is if they tax e-liquids, e-cigarettes, and devices and hardware. So
and that's a crazy thing all by itself.
What's that?
Is how much they are taxing everything. Because Here again, it would be a whole nother show that you and I would be able to sit down and talk about with some other people like Alan Davis and whatnot about the master settlement agreement, and that's just people just don't know. You know, some of the people, more of the people in the vaping industry.
They don't know what I'm talking about. They don't know what you're talking about.
No,
they don't want to know.
They don't,
because we are so inundated with crappy days. You know, people have no money or high taxes. Or we got the Trump issue and the hate for Trump and the immigration and ICE, and we have all the other things going on in this country with AIDS and crack and opiates and all these foster children. We got 500,000 foster kids at homes that don't have their parents, and we're worried about the immigrants coming in illegally and their children. People are just so sick and tired of the whole thing. And in the meantime, every day we don't do something for the smoker, 1,200 people will die again tomorrow, and nobody gives a rat's ass. Okay? When I said that publicly in the movie, the documentary, A Billion Lives, nobody cares. And I qualified that by saying, maybe I should have said not enough people care, but certainly you care, so I have to be careful what I say. So I had to learn quickly that if I'm going to go on the radio and I'm going to start spewing my mouth, I'm going to start getting diarrhea in the mouth, I'm going to have somebody that's there with me to help me keep me out of jail, which is why I have Kevin Crowley.
And I can seriously appreciate and understand that, because there are people, unfortunately, that will take you adamantly, literally, for every single syllable that you say. And if you put one toe out of line, you could speak for an hour and a half and speak the truth, and one toe out of line, and that's all they're going to do is harangue the hell out of you for that.
You do 99 things right, nobody knows. You do one thing wrong, everybody knows.
You got that right.
And so Kevin Crowley is my guy that we do my podcast, the David G. Model Citizen. It's supported by, I have two sponsors that they don't even pay me, but they're my employers. I work for them. I work for Kevin Lacey at Pinnacle CBD, who's got one of the greatest CBD lines in the world. And we got Trent Struck down at Vapes Gone Wild in Newman, Georgia, who took a shot with me and gave me 3 of its flavors to brand with my name and my reputation. And they're just wonderful, wonderful people. And again, I don't want to neglect mentioning David Holmes from Unique E-Cigs, who gave me a shot last year, but I failed him miserably because nobody was wanting wholesale of their line because everybody had, e-liquid sitting on their shelves coming out their wahoo,
Yep.
And so it was just a tough time. So at this point in my career, I'm going to do what I have to do, regardless of the DTA, the AVA, NBS, SFATA and CASA. I respect the hell out of these people. I will support what Gonzo is trying to do. Big Ramsey, a great guy, and the hardworking people like James Jarvis in Ohio. I mean, there's just so many wonderful people that aren't getting any credit for what they're doing. So when they go out there and they try to speak of the progress they're making or the lack of progress they're making, sometimes it might come off as bitching or ranting or complaining. So what? These are the people who have been out there from day one doing what they said they were going to do, and that was to try to bring an alternative product to help people live longer and get them off of combustible cigarettes.
And that's the biggest thing. And you were talking there for a minute about people, grabbing hold of something that's massively wrong, or watching two people in the industry absolutely smashing their heads together. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned James, and it made me remember, you were James Jarvis in Columbus, Ohio, in the Vapor Station, brought you into the store to promote your line and to check in, and he and you went to various places. And it happened that Fig Ramsey was there. And when I heard that you guys were all going to be there, that's when I jumped in the car and I drove down. And that's where I met you the first time.
12 hours or something?
It was like 3.5 hours one way. Okay. It wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. But what got me, and I know that Fig is in the chat room. It's hard, and for the people in the chat room on Facebook, I apologize. I'm getting better with how I manage my resources. But at times it's difficult to be able to watch and respond and run the things the way that I should.
Yeah, well, that's what this show's about. This show should be about information, and chatting can come later, I think.
Yeah, I just like to try to pay attention in case somebody really says something in the chat room. But I know Fig's in there. But the point that I was going to make is you and Fig sat down and had a conversation about CBD and medical cannabis.
Right.
And both of you had your own view of how things should be, would be otherwise. But what was awesome for anybody that is listening, what was awesome is when they were done having this conversation, we went all right back to being friends and the same, and there was no problem.
Of course.
Fig didn't get up and get pissed off, and
Michael,
David didn't get up and get pissed off.
I
Nobody
disagree.
walked away.
Kevin Crowley and I disagree on many issues. I disagreed with Aaron Biebert from a documentary, A Billion Lives. I don't disagree with a lot of people for disagreement's sake, to be arrogant or obnoxious. I disagree because I have a different core mission than a lot of people, and for me, the CBD factor, which is a totally different show all by itself, smokers generally aren't healthy in other areas of their life. And when they quit smoking, they may need other protocols that will help them get better quicker and heal quicker, which is why CBD works for me. Plus, it's personal. And I can see where people don't want to mix the CBD in with the vape shops because it's two different worlds. But then again, it's not as far as a tobacco harm reduction, because in my opinion, CBD is a tobacco harm reduction product that you can vape. You can also, while you're quitting smoking, add it into your nicotine level of e-liquids that you may vape 8, 12, 14 times a day.
Yep.
So, but your point is well taken. Why can't we just get along? There's no reason to be, don't agree to be disagreeable. Don't be disagreeable to agree. Just talk it out. And I learn from people. I get education from people. You're not going to take away an opinion that I have, because I've been using CBD since almost 13 months now. And in those 13 months, after 4 cervical surgeries and a shoulder replacement, I have not had to use one opiate or one pain pill or one muscle relaxer or one nerve pill for gabapentin, because I only take CBD now. So you're not going to take that belief of mine away because you're on Facebook and you have a different opinion.
No, and that's awesome, though, because, again, I was sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, my God, I need to get into my station wagon and go like hell back home. Because typically...
it's going to turn into a free-for-all.
Yeah, typically this would turn into a, here's the middle finger and nasty words, and you see it or you hear about it in other places. But for me, it was awesome because I watched 2 grown adults have a conversation, have a disagreement, talk about why they disagreed, and then we were done. And it was cool. And that was awesome.
You'll never see me profess to be as good as Big Ramsey is in certain areas. He does what he does brilliantly. I try to do what I do as best I can, being a people person. Fig is just so gregarious and outgoing and so friendly, and he's in your face with his ideas and his views, and he makes you listen because you want to. He doesn't make you listen because he's louder and obnoxious and overpowering. He just gives you information that makes you have an aha moment, know? And my aha moments are the same. And that's why my podcast, I want it out there twice a week. I want to get sponsors that will help me. I've got nobody that wants to sponsor these shows because it means a commitment. Because nobody's really thinking what the future for vaping is going to be in the next 6 months to a year. Okay, people don't want to go in and you can't come up with new e-liquids because of the registration of our liquids and our products as of August 2016. So we're pretty limited. So now we got to find ways to compete. And the ways to do that now is what we're doing. We got show after show after show after show after show. Now you got people competing for the different buyers that we have and suppliers and customers that we have. Same weekend in different parts of the country, and people are torn. Which one do I go to? Do I go to ECC? Do I go to Showcase? Because people are getting wore out, and these shows aren't cheap. These people who have to go in and buy a booth, and they're looking for business to business. And if there's not foot traffic because we are oversaturated and we're too close, and having these shows week after week or month after month, it's hard on people. And I think the frustration is that we're not seeing enough bang for our buck because of the factor that the public still has not jumped on the bandwagon. And we still have 41 million smokers out there who would be great customers to have, but we're not allowed to go get them because we're not allowed to tell people how wonderful this product of vaping is for you as a device to help you cut down because of all the bullshit laws, bad laws that are being made by bad people. So I have enough to keep me busy for quite a while, Michael. And
I know you do. I'm going to rewind.
My podcast, and my podcast is going to be not for the faint of heart. My podcast, is going to be with having, Fig Ramsey hopefully on the show. Letting people really know how he feels about things, because I know how he feels and I know how pissed off he gets with some of these big manufacturers that are sitting on their money and not sharing to keep this industry alive and well.
Yep.
And there's so many other wonderful people out there that I do respect and that we need to come together, but we don't have a roundtable meeting with people anymore. You just have these shows, and then you go out and have an after party. Then people spend a lot of money on their Airbnb and their travel and getting their booths there and shipping them there and hotels and dinners at night and lunches and breakfast. It's quite an expensive event. So, and the VTA just had their fly into Capitol Hill a few weeks ago with plenty of food, and I guess they had 120 people show up or 160 people from 28 states, and that's a good thing. But I don't know what bang you're getting for your buck. I don't know if that's too little, too late, because we don't have till 2022, and if we get one every time you fly in, that's 4 years, or 2, or 8, or 20. I don't think it's enough. I think we need to change the course of vaping in the court of public opinion. Nobody wants to believe me. Nobody wants to put any money into public relations. They'll crowdfund and they'll get it for advocacy, which is vitally important, absolutely necessary. But there's also got to be a fair share for public relations to come up with paid press releases that you're going to get the media that want to talk about. Because right now, they're only buying the paid press releases that are coming from Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, cancer, lung, heart, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a frustrating part for a lot of people. And I'm just in it to win it, and I have to do it with people that I can count on. And I do have a lot of friends in this industry, but a lot of them will disagree with my approach. They'll disagree with my core mission. My core mission is to get a smoker to quit those damn cigarettes, vape for a year, 2, 3, or 4. If you want to continue to vape forever, fine. But don't be feeling you have to vape for the rest of your life to go from smoking to vaping for the rest of your life. And that's where a lot of people miss the boat. They think that, now if they vape, they'll never be able to quit that. I think people should be able to quit vaping if they want down the road. A lot of people have.
I would
Nobody
agree.
wants to talk about that, Michael.
I would definitely agree that if they want to turn around and vape, okay, they've dropped all of the carcinogens, and if you have a nicotine habit, my understanding is there's research out there that says the nicotine habit is only as bad as your cup of coffee habit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But what I'm saying, I'm talking about the culture itself.
The culture has to change. There's no doubt about it.
I did 4 or 5 shows with Vape Radio, but it's really not my demographic, and I haven't done a couple shows in a few weeks because I'm so angry and I don't want to disparage people and I want to come off sound like a blithering idiot, and bitching and complaining all the time, because I usually don't. I'm more of a pacifist than I am a loudmouth. But I'm getting really angry, so I didn't want to do shows and let that come off, because the demographics of Vape Radio, you got Rod and Pablo, 2 of the greatest guys I've ever met in my life, and you got Katie, and you got Scotty, and you got Norm Bauer, and you got me, but my show is not for the people that we were talking about at the convention. Yes, we had 50 people standing up listening to me talking about advocacy. You had Mark Anton, you had Sherwin Mina, you had Tristan, you had a lot of people that know what they're talking about. But my demographic is not Sherwin Mina's. My demographic is not Joey Brown's. My demographic is not yours. My demographic is a smoker who for 40, 50 years has been sucking on 4,762 chemicals, gases, poisons, irritants, vapors, and pesticides. And now they finally have an avenue that they can take that'll get them down to 5 ingredients that'll give them the same feel, maybe not 100%, but pretty close. Maybe it's not spiked with 50 milligrams of nicotine like Juul is or other devices. But so what if it is? If whatever you have to vape gets you off of smoking, then damn it, go for it. And then you can decide on your terms that if you want to quit vaping down the road, you can.
Yep.
Without having to feel like you're feeling like you're being disloyal to the vaping community because now you want to quit vaping. Screw it.
Yep.
If you want to quit vaping too. Don't have anything going into your body. And even the CBD. If you want to use CBD for your fibromyalgia, for your Crohn's disease, for your Parkinson's, for your seizures or whatever, and finally you get over that, you may want to start cutting that down. I just think that we have, as a culture, made it hard for people to go from quitting smoking to vaping, and then give them so many different choices that they have to try 20,000 different flavors, because they're available. And now it's in a bigger, chubbier bottle, or now it's in 120 milliliter, or it's now tasting like lemon cake, or, I think that we've gotten a little off center here. And that's what I'm talking about. And the people now, Michael, who are leading the way are the millionaires. There's a lot of people in distribution who are making tons and tons and tons of money, but they won't take on anything else because their inventories are being shipped out. But now you got people like in the state of New Jersey that aren't going to buy for a while until we see where this tax, 10 cents per mil tax, is going to go in the floor tax. And every state's got something on the books for the next legislative season that they're going to start taxing the shit out of e-liquids and hardwares and devices. So I think we need to rethink a couple things. And that is to let people like Big Ramsey go out and collect his funds that he can from these manufacturers and put it where it's going to be best used to at least make the effort to try to save this industry the best we can. And then listen to people like me who have knowledge about the industry for 35 years and get a phone call from somebody to say, hey, let's sit down and talk about it. You're allowing me to tell my story on your show when there's so many hundreds of things that you could be talking about. But my story is not insignificant.
Your story is wholeheartedly, singly, a one of a kind. There is not another one on the planet like it. The only way somebody could match it is if the Marlboro
don't know
Man.
What to do with me. Demetrius always calls me a loose cannon. Sometimes I don't have a filter on my mouth, but I'll say the same thing to Chuck Schumer. I'll say the same thing to Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, or from Dick Durbin, or all these Sherrod Browns out in Ohio. I'll say the same thing to them that I'm saying to you and your listeners, and that is you need to stop putting targets and bullseyes on the backs and chests of smokers and vapors, because we're not going to stand for it, and you will be held accountable. And the civil disobedience factor has got to be something that we should consider down the road, instead of putting on a suit and tie and a sport coat and go down in Washington and talk to two of the assistants of some senator or congressman, and then break our backs, pretty much break our arms while we're patting ourselves on the back. See, that's what I'm talking about. I know people are trying. They're doing what they think they should do by going to Washington. It's all admirable, what they're trying to do. But are we really doing what's necessary to create the environment and the narrative necessary to save the 9-10 million vapors we have, or the 41 remaining million smokers? Are we doing them justice by sitting back and waiting for people to behave themselves? I don't think so. I think that's the worst thing that we can do.
I would agree. David, we're going to take just a few moments. I've got to play the sponsor material. As I found earlier today on your speakers only, it may come across a little bit distorted, but don't pay attention to that. But we'll be right back as soon as I get this all set up to run.
Okay, I'll be here.
I'm going to see if I can't. I keep working on this, and I need. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Shell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the former Winston man, David Goerlitz, and very, very passionate about everything that he's got going on. There is no doubt about it. I'm going to step back through time. I'm going to rewind the clock for the people that never caught our first show. And I've got a picture up here. It's one of the advertisements that you had done as the Winston man. What years did you run as the Winston man in advertising, David?
I was hired in 1981 when I was 31 years of age. I did the ads until 1987, 88, 89. And I say that because they had enough footage that they could run in different venues and media environments like billboards or door stickers or push-pull door stickers or signage. So they bought me out in 1987, and then they ran the ads for a couple of years after that. So the ads were pretty brilliant, always associating smoking with mountain climbing, helicopter piloting. And as I always remind people, smoking and mountain climbing generally don't go together. But they did a brilliant job in making that association, didn't they? Macho.
They very much did.
Healthy activity and smoking, which is can't be any further from the truth.
Now, back then, even then, did they know that they were targeting a particular market?
Yeah, they told me, and I testified in Congress, which is what set this whole thing in motion. After I quit smoking, I testified in Congress for the Surgeon General and Ron Davis from the Office on Smoking and Health. And they asked me what I knew. And I said, well, all I can tell you is that they told me the right to smoke was reserved for the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid. And I was young, I was poor, and I was stupid. The only thing I wasn't was an African-American.
Wow.
93% of smokers, Michael, start under the age of 16, 17. We all know that. Nobody would deny that. Nobody in any capacity, unless you're mentally challenged, would deny the fact that 93% or majority of smokers start as teenagers. You know, they don't start as adults, as 40-year-olds or 30-year-olds.
See, now,
20-year-olds.
I believe that wholeheartedly, but I'm one of the few. I didn't start until I was actually 19. You know, but
Were
then...
you in the military?
No. It is the stupidest thing, and I don't know how many other people went the same route. At the time, a beer and a cigarette went together really well at a bar.
Sure. Uh-huh.
You know?
Right.
So there I was at
I
19 and all the way up until I was 44. And it's like, then I started vaping. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, are there reasons why adults or young adults start at 19? Yeah, of course. That's why I said only 93%. That leaves 7%
Hey, buddy.
who fall into your category and older. You know,
Yep.
a lot of times people will start smoking after they get divorced, or there's a lot of stress in their life, or they're allowed to drink, and then alcohol becomes a bigger part of your life than you what it intended to be in your life. So that comes together. So there's a lot of reasons, but we're talking about generalities, and that is most smokers. If you're 30 years of age, you're not going to wake up one morning and say, you know what, damn it, I never started smoking. I think I'm going to start today.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Now,
that's not where they're going to spend $14 billion in annual advertising budgets.
I've got somebody on the phone because I saw the phone ring. I picked it up, and I know that he can hear me. So on the phone, go ahead and say hello.
Hello?
Did he still...
I can't hear anybody.
Austin?
Is that Austin Hopper?
I'm going to give him a call back. I picked up the phone, but I think because I didn't say hello, he didn't answer.
Well, he's traveling a lot. Maybe he's not anywhere near a good service area.
It's very possible. I'm going to tell him to call again. Because I've got the phone down on my desk, and it wasn't sitting up high enough where I could actually see it.
Okay. Now, you were talking about Chattanooga.
Yes.
And when I was down there, I was so frustrated that day, not only because I was walking around with a cane and a compression stocking and looking like an idiot.
You weren't looking like an idiot. You were busy talking to an assload of people. Okay, here we go again. Now, this time, Austin, can you hear me? There, try that one more time, sir. Well, he's going to be here somewhere. Austin, are you with us? Mr. Hopper.
Is he using tin cans in a string?
Hey, Mike.
There he is. Can you hear me, sir? Austin Hopper, you're on the phone. I could hear you.
I hear nothing.
I don't either. See, now this is the part where you and Bill and I had everything worked out, and it was actually working very nicely earlier today.
Well, let's lay plans, Michael.
I'll tell you what.
Worry.
Well, instead of having him call through the software on the computer, I'm having him trying to call into... Now, I'm going to answer this phone again. Austin, can you hear me? He's going to keep... When he finally catches up with me, he's going to beat my rear end. I'll tell you that.
No, I wouldn't worry about it. Austin's used to this, I'm sure. He's been in this business long enough.
I'll keep an eye on my phone.
Okay.
Yep.
But
see,
anyway,
here it says... Now, are you... Austin, can you hear me at all? Now, Austin is having problems. I'm going to have him call a different phone number, and we're going to put him on the air in a different fashion. But you and I were talking here momentarily. We started out talking about the years that you were doing the advertisements. Did they knowingly turn around and target youth? And by youth, I'm going to be a little bit more specific and say people that were underage. Did they knowingly do that?
Sure. We have memos. I have memos from Claude Teagues, who used to be the marketing director for RJ Reynolds. I got a lot of information from a guy by the name of Peter Jennings. He was starting a file on the tobacco companies back in 1990s, early 90s. And he had me on his show as ABC Person of the Week. And he gave me some files about how Claude Teagues, the marketing director for R.J. Reynolds, had memos where he was sending it to the sales department by saying, if we don't get 15-year-olds and younger, we'll be out of business in 20 years.
Are you kidding me?
No, I have the memos. I have them. And that's why I was such a problem for R.J. Reynolds in 1988 and 89 and 90, because they knew I had this information, because I was privy to all the things that were going on with inside the marketing tactics of R.J. Reynolds and their highly paid advertising agency, which was the agency called William S.D. Advertising out of Manhattan. So when you're with somebody for 8 or 9 years doing the same thing with the same people, you get pretty friendly and you know what's going on. You hear things and you're a part of discussions and they're told things. Just like they told me when I asked them why they didn't smoke. The R.J. Reynolds executive said, we don't smoke this shit, we just sell it. We reserve that for the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid. Now, do you know that with that being said, I never once heard from the NAACP. I never once heard from the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, which was what was real big back in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
They don't call because they're all connected. There's so much money coming in from the African-American community for the Cools and the Newports, because that's where the majority of product goes for the African-American youth and adults, is the menthol. That's why R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris were so interested in keeping flavors alive in San Francisco, so a precedent wasn't set for the rest of the world to take on the flavor ban, because menthol is such a big, humongous financial reward for them, for Newport and Cools and other mentholated cigarettes for the African-American community. I don't know why.
Insane.
I don't know why the African-American community, likes menthol over tobacco. Because every school program I ever did, I said, how many of you know African Americans who smoke? And they all raised their hands. And I said, what brand they smoke? And they all yelled out Newport or Cool. So I do my own surveys. I do my own studies. And
yeah,
they're different from the hoaxes that we have now as a national youth survey that the government tries to shove up our ass, every time convenient when we say it's for the children. Vaping is not for children, but we still have 15, 16, 17% of teenagers still smoking combustible tobacco.
Yeah.
Nobody's willing to take that on. So I'm just sick of it. I'm over it.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to bring, and we're going to find out if we can connect. Now I should be able to hear this gentleman on the other phone line. Are you there?
I'm there, Mike.
There he is. Do you have something playing in the background, Austin?
Do I have what in the background?
David, can you hear Austin Hopper?
No, I can't.
You can't hear me, Dave? Well, Mike, what I would recommend, keep going on with your interview with Dave. Let's figure it out for another time. We don't want to mess up David's time.
Austin, I apologize. I can hear you, but I can't turn the volume up from this in particular side, because if I do, it's going to turn around right now and just... Let me try a little bit more here.
Go on with your interview with David. Enjoy. I love you both, and we'll do it another time.
David, could you hear Austin at all?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Austin, I appreciate you giving me a call.
Continue with David.
Yeah, I'll work on my phone, my personal phone, and we'll see how we can get all this straightened around, because I do want to have both of you back on the line again. There's no doubt about it. All right, that, for a moment, was Austin Hopper, but because I've got things plugged in a very different way, it wasn't going to allow us to hear him and David Goerlitz at the same time. And as some of you might have heard, Austin said, go ahead and continue our interview with David, because that's something that is near and dear to our heart. And for other people...
You tell Austin and I go way back, so...
Yeah.
You tell him we got a lot of catching up to do. I'm sorry we couldn't chat, but In the meantime, Michael, there's so many things going on right now with big tobacco, and I used to sit at my desk and I would pile up all of my notes that I would want to talk about, and then after a while you just say, screw it, I'm going to throw it all away, and I'm just going to go from memory, because I've got 34 years in the tobacco game, and I call it a game because that's what it is. They're winning and smokers are losing, and now the game they're playing now with vapors is vapors are losing. So that's the core mission of what everything I am all about. I told you last time I was on, I'm above the opinions that other people have of me. I could care less what people think of me. I tried really hard to get... Hello?
I'm right here. That was
Okay.
my fault on that one. Sorry. It is difficult when you have such a passion for the things that you're doing. It's difficult not to tell people exactly what you're thinking or what you are wanting to say to them right off the bat.
Well, how do you get people to sidle up to the truth when the truth is already right there in front of you? There shouldn't be sides on the truth. It either is or it isn't. Tobacco either kills when you smoke it or it doesn't. Well, it does.
Yes.
Nicotine does not kill you. Nicotine is an addictive substance like caffeine. Okay? If we keep riding the same horse, and that is going down this path where nicotine is the enemy here, we're never going to get out of this problem. If we keep allowing people like Matt Myers from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, or Scott Gottlieb, who knows better. Scotty Gottlieb knows better. He just doesn't know which side of the tracks he wants to be on this time, because he's getting so much pressure from Big Pharma and from Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, American Cancer, American Lung, and American Heart. He's getting pressure from them. Now he's getting letters from Dickie Durbin and Dickie Blumenthal and 3 or 4 other people saying that they need to hurry up and get flavors out of the e-liquid market. The letters are coming in as of this week, signed by 6 and 7 different Democrats, saying flavors have got to be removed from e-liquids, and it's going to decimate the industry. And then we try to get 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people to write in their comments to Scott Gottlieb, telling him why flavors was important in keeping them off of 4,700 chemicals, gases, and poisons that are found in combustible tobacco, with 60 of them that are carcinogenic, and nobody wants to frickin' listen. So,
and that's part of the massive problem, is that people don't want to listen.
Well,
now,
and they're not going to listen, Michael. They're not going to listen until you embarrass them into it, until they have a personal experience with it, until a doctor says, "Hey, Bob, you know what? You got lung cancer. You may want to quit smoking, dude." Oh, okay. Hey, Linda, you're going to have breast cancer. If you keep smoking, it's going to exacerbate it. It's going to metastasize into other. Okay. See, people shouldn't have to get to the desperate end of the hanging rope when they're ready to fall off.
No,
we have something that will help them, and they're taking it away.
It is. Here's something that you were a massive part of when we're talking about getting people to listen, was the movie A Billion Lives. And you played an extremely key role in the making of that movie, because it revolved an awful lot around information that you have and the way that you could present it, correct?
Correct, yeah. Yeah. And I had 30 years experience in tobacco in one way, shape, or form, either on one side or the other. And I had acknowledgement from Aaron Biebert, the director, and he was at my home for about 8 hours gathering data and information that came from my lips to his ears. And it's not speculation or suspicion. It's what I lived. It's what I saw. It's what I heard. It's what we talked about. So that's what made it more important than just a doctor who may have done research on, respiratory therapy and how do you fix lung cancer and how do you control it and how do you do lung therapy. I'm not a doctor. I'm just somebody that knows big tobacco doesn't give a shit about people. Big pharmaceuticals wants nothing from you other than a disease so they can live off of you for years while they keep feeding you their medicines to prolong it, but it's not helping you when it could have been avoided in the beginning. So, I was important enough to where people all over the world got to see me, the Winston guy. But then, unfortunately, A Billion Lives is only a small percentage of who I am. And I haven't been called back to do any more for Aaron Biebert in his new documentary for the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World for Derek Yock. which is being funded with $1 billion from Philip Morris International. And like I said before, I mean, in the very beginning, I was very upset with the fact that PMI, Philip Morris International, was putting $1 billion into a foundation called a Foundation for a Smoke-Free World. And I'm like, over 12 years? Why not just stop growing the shit and maybe we can get a better handle on it and stop growing tobacco? Well, of course, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that almost seems like a double negative. The big tobacco company putting money into it.
That's why people got upset with me, and I called people out on it. And then I finally got the word from the wonderful people who I do respect in the industry, like Clive Bates and Oliver Kershaw and Attila Danko over in Australia and Constantino Farsallonis and David Sweener up in Canada, all these wonderful, knowledgeable experts in tobacco itself, tobacco growth and how it's ingested and things. And they're all telling me that Derek Yack, who's taking this money, is not going to let Philip Morris International control how he tries to develop this foundation for smoke-free, which is fine. I can buy that. Okay? And now Aaron is doing these movies to try to enhance the people's lives in different parts of the world where he's doing this filming. But there's only so much I can do sitting here in Berlin, New Jersey, when my own state can't even get it together with funding and an organization that's going to look out for the 300 brick and mortar stores that are trying to be there for their community and offer a better alternative than combustible smoking tobacco. So
yeah. Now let me ask you, in this movie, A Billion Lives, number one, how well was it received when it came out and had its red carpet debut? Because I know that it debuted at different parts of the world at different time frames.
Yeah. Well, it started, I think, over in New Zealand and Australia, and then it went into several other areas. And then he was winning awards because it was so hard-hitting about the corruption in government, corruption in big tobacco. And like you said, I was a big part of that because I had shared my story. And that coincided with all of the experts like Constantino Farsallonis, a cardiologist, and people who are in the medical field like Derek Yack and Johan Human from South Africa, and Attila Danko from Australia. And then you had the personal stories from like me and other vapors who were able to quit smoking. And so it was a nice piece that people could find interesting. So it was very well received. But then unfortunately, the community of which we are a part of, the vaping community, a lot of people wanted Mr. Biebert, the director and producer of the film, to put it on Netflix for free. And this guy spent a year putting it together, and the guy's a filmmaker. He's not an advocate, but he believed in what he was trying to do, because the more he learned, the more passionate he became. From people like me, and from people like Bill Godshaw, and from other people who started in the industry at Johnson Creek, coming up with e-liquid for people. So we got along really well, and the movie did well. The only problem with it is nobody on the other side would be interviewed, like American Cancer, American Heart, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, American Legacy Foundation, all the body parts people.
Now, when this came out, what
they didn't want to go on camera, so it became a one-sided documentary, which is not what caused controversy.
Yeah, this came out 2 years ago, correct?
July in Milwaukee, July or August, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And back then, the American Cancer Society or anybody else was not even thinking about backing vaping or saying that that it is a product that could be less harmful. They weren't going to go anywhere near it. So, of course, they wouldn't do you any interviews. To where today, American Cancer Society or other people are saying, hey, vaping does not have the carcinogens that combustible tobacco has.
Right. Well, they are the poster children for the 3 stages of truth. You know what they are, Michael?
I remember you telling me the last time, but I want you to say it again for anybody that didn't hear it from you before.
Well, it's a perfect fit. It's the perfect storm. The 3 stages of truth are, number one, the first stage is that anything is ridiculed. It's ridiculed. Second stage, it's violently opposed, just like American Cancer Society and American Lung Association did. And then the third stage, it's finally accepted as evident and proven, but then they take the credit for it, and it comes back under their guise after we did all the work. That's what the 3 stages of truth are. It's ridiculed, violently opposed, and then finally publicly accepted as self-evident and proven to be true.
Oh, there's
That's
no
what
doubt that's exactly what happened with American Cancer Society, because now they're
Sure,
saying,
that's
vaping is a safer alternative, or, can be used as a cessation tool, or, they're starting to
Well, they
back us
lied.
up.
They lied for the last 7 years that I've been aware of, since I've been involved pretty heavily in vaping in 2010 and 11. First, they said it's as bad as smoking, and they lied through their teeth along with everybody else. But now they're coming around. But in the meantime, in those 7 years, 400,000 people died every year in those 7 years times 7 years. That's 2.1 million people died because they didn't have the courage to stand up, other than having moral indignation that somehow vaping is similar to smoking. So therefore, all the good that we did will become undone. And then they started the lies that it's a gateway drug for teenagers and it's going to get kids to smoking nicotine. It's not. Just like the juuling thing. Juul is not an epidemic. It's a manufactured hoax in order for Juul to become the scapegoat for these people who really don't care about anything other than their own priorities, and that is moral indignation, and keep the troughs coming in with smokers, because smokers have cut down smoking combustible and they switched over to the safer alternative of vaping. So that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell, Michael, and nobody wants to listen to it.
Now, there's a number that you just mentioned. You said 2.1 million people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Folks that are listening, that's 2.1 million American people.
7 years.
2.1 million Americans, not globally. My God, globally, it'd be like close to 14 million people. But that's 2.1 million Americans died because...
And my point is, in 7 years that they denied vaping as a better alternative, a safer alternative, since 2011, in the 7 years now that they're coming out in 2018, that it is better, it is safer, it is what we said it was. In those 7 years, when they could have come out with the truth that we had back then and say, hey, convert to vaping, it's safer, they lied and misrepresented, committed fraud.
And it's amazing,
unverified.
Because if they would have said anything, just on a lower end scale, they could have saved 500,000 lives
A year
by saying something.
Yes, by saying, and yes, of course, our critics would say, well, if they quit smoking today, they're not going to, die tomorrow. Yes, it takes a long time. We're talking proportionately. Every day that goes by that we do not let smokers get vaping products that are going to be satisfying to them as far as the nicotine level they want. Since nicotine is not the enemy. And the flavors, if that's what they want to choose, because it's going to keep them off their Camels and their Marlboros and their Newports and their cool. And what the hell's the difference? Okay.
Yep.
And right now, as I said before, the community in tobacco knows that everything about smoking stalls at 20%. Once we reach 20%, still having 20% smokers in this country, I'm not talking Canada. I'm not talking about EU or France or Germany or South America, just in the United States alone, okay? When you have 434,000 people dying consistently every year from a disease that may be caused by something that you may have some genetics, you may have some predisposed genetics that could cause you to have cancer in your family without even smoking. But if you add to that the possible risk of what we know smoking does when you do inhale 4,700 chemicals, of which 60 cause cancer, you're bound to be on the losing side of that shitty end of the stick.
Right.
So that's what I've tried to tell people, and that's why I don't want to go do these conventions anymore. That's why I don't want to go there and entertain and get people, 30 people, 50 people. I need an audience of thousands that I want to hear what I have to say. And your show is just one of the shows that I like to do because it gets me an audience. And, of course, Smoke Free Radio knows who I am. I've been on their shows quite a bit.
Now, I'm going to tell you, just for your own knowledge, some of my family, they tune in and they listen simply because they want to see what the hell I'm doing. But then when they found out that you were going to be on the last time, they tuned in because they were interested. One, because you're the Winston man, okay? And then they found that you were vaping. Now, some of my family got in touch with me and said, I learned more listening to that former smoker about vaping than I have for a long time. And I said, that is exactly what this man is out and trying to do, is to to get to the people that are smoking and saying, look, folks, get off of the combustible cigarettes. Here is something that will still provide you a nicotine intake, but stop smoking. Right. And for my family members that don't smoke, they thoroughly enjoyed just listening to you, and they had no idea of the course of how things had gone since they stopped seeing your print ads or any kind of advertisement with you in it, So they found it very interesting. But the ones that do smoke were so glad that they stopped to listen, and I know there are a couple of them that are going to be listening to this later on when we're all done. So you're reaching more of an audience than you might know.
Well, all I can tell you is that I'm going to continue to do what I do, but I'm not going to play the games that some of our organizations within our industry want me to play. I'm not going to play the games that some of them want me to play, and I'm saying that from my lips to all your ears. I'm going to do what I have to do on my podcast called David G. Model Citizen, and it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be naming names. It's going to be embarrassing to some people, but I'm at the point where I really don't give a shit. I don't care anymore what people think of me. The truth has got to come out in one way, shape, or form. And if it comes out, sounding like a ranting lunatic, well, then you're going to have to look at consider the source of what I've been through for the last 40 years here in my own life.
And that's the perfect way to do it.
I was a poster boy for R.J. Reynolds and Winston, but I'm also, I have emphysema and COPD. I'm on Wellbutrin, I'm on albuterol, I'm on my Symbicort every day. Because I did this to myself when I was 14, when I started smoking, or 13, whatever it was.
Wow.
And all I can tell you is that there's enough evidence right now to hold these people in government, in political positions, in big pharmaceutical organizations, and in health organizations called the anti-tobacco movement. They are going to be held accountable, and they're going to be exposed. They're going to be told that they need to stop doing what they're doing, because we got proof now, and every other organization in health, we have 36 different health organizations that are saying vaping should be a part of a smoker cessation device when they want to quit, when they're ready to quit, and we're here to help them. Then you can exponentially reduce the amount of nicotine on your own when and if you are ever ready. But in the meantime, if you're not going to allow people to vape because of your moral indignation, or suppositions and may do this, and we heard that, or it could be this, or it could be that. And then you want to tax the hell out of it and put all these barriers and walls up that people can't climb over to quit and find a way to be successful at it. And somebody's culpable of being a part of murdering other people. It's murder, and I can't put it any more clear than that. They're complicit in helping people die prematurely when there was evidence and products there available, and they're taking them away. And it needs to desist.
And that's exactly what a lot of people do need to hear. And I've got a picture up here on Facebook for people that are going to be watching. For people that are catching the show in the audio mode or going to listen to a podcast, you want to go to davidgmodelcitizen.com, and you'll be able to pick up his podcast and his replays at davidgmodelcitizen.com. And I've checked out the things that you have been able to do with Kevin Crowley, and I'll tell you what, the information that you provide there is just, to me, is phenomenal. And I thoroughly...
Well, we just started, Michael, and I would love you to be on my show as well, because I need a second, third opinion of people with different set of eyes of what's happening in different parts of the country, because I can't be all over the place.
Yes.
But
and
at
I'd
this
love
particular
to do that.
point, I want to be a part of your show whenever you want me on. And I would like you to be a part of my show as well.
I would love to.
Because at this point, I got to sign off shortly because I have to go take care of some commitments that I have.
Yep, so, and I know you've got to. There's one more thing that I want to talk to you about, and it is your affiliation, and now you have a line of product for Pinnacle for CBD.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me in just a short phrase, what is And I know what it is, but I want people to be able to know, what is CBD?
CBD is a part of the marijuana plant, okay? It can be extracted and synthetic. It can be extracted as hemp. It can be extracted as marijuana, cannabis. This is the non-psychoactive, very low or non-existent THC that's extracted from cannabis, okay, which allows you to have the full benefits of a full-spectrum CBD oil that is good for so many different things in your life, whether you want it to be for your fibromyalgia, whether it be for stress, anxiety, whether it be for sleep disorders, Crohn's disease, seizures. There's so many testimonials and stories. Parkinson's disease, people coming off of opiates, where it's an alternative to pharmaceutical medicines, but there's no THC that's detectable. It's legal. It's not psychoactive. You don't get a buzz. You don't get high. It just has all the benefits, the wonderful benefits of what comes from the marijuana plant in the form of cannabis, hemp, and synthetic. It's very confusing because you got full spectrum, you got isolates, you got CBD oil. You'll find hundreds of different brands, but a lot of them have different benefits for different users who have different genetics. Okay, so I used it because of my cervical spine surgeries. I used it for shoulder replacement, and it allowed me to get off of the major painkillers that they had me on for 8 years. And it happens so many times over and over. CBD, it's extracted, full spectrum. I put it under my tongue. I take about 20 milligrams a day, about a half a dropper. You can vape it. I now have 5-flavor vape CBD fluid. I'm vape CBD oil under Pinnacle, the David G collection, because sometimes CBD, when you put it under your tongue subliminally, it's kind of bitter. So we made some flavors to where it makes it more palatable and more pleasant to take when you want to take it, because as I said earlier, smokers generally aren't healthy in other areas of their life. So this is something that helps. It's also good for people who've never smoked. It's not just for smokers who are quitting. It's for anybody that has stress in their life and anxiety and sleep disorders and sleep apnea and Parkinson's and Crohn. And the list goes on and on and on and on.
Now,
so,
just
I love it.
And I put a picture up of the Pinnacle line and a picture that you had taken with, it's a promotional with Pinnacle CBD and you. And there's one that's online right now that I'm showing that it's actually a gummy, the CBD gummy from Pinnacle. And I know that others make them as well. So
yeah.
What I'm trying to get people to know is this is a product that is a derivative, but does not, and you said it, and I'm glad they heard it from you first, it does not make you high. That's the important thing that I need people to know. They have various strengths of whatever they have. They've got like 150 milligram, a 300 milligram, an 1800 milligram is what I'm looking at. Like you said, so yeah. there are very various different types. Now,
there's some, and we don't profess to be doctors, but I know I take about 20 to 30 milligrams a day for my ailments, which is I've had fibromyalgia. I have RFAs where they burn the nerves in my neck 3 different times. I've had 3 cervical spine surgeries. It just takes the edge off to where I don't have to be married to those opiates and painkillers for the rest of my life. And that for me works. And my brand, my flavors are 300 milligrams. The David G series are 300 milligrams.
Right. That's what a picture that I'm showing right now is the David G line. And I can't live without it. I love it. I have heard that, and I've got one of your bottles here, and I honest to God, I have not had. This is me, and I know there are going to be a lot of people like me. But this is one of the reasons that I wanted to take a minute to talk to you. Now, I'm 50, okay? In all of my life, I have never done any illicit drug, whether it be marijuana, speed, acid, LSD, none of it. Okay, I'm one of those square guys that just you don't find many of, I would assume. And it makes me leery for the first time in my life. There's a product that can help me sleep, and I'm leery to take it because it's derived from a marijuana plant. So here I am at 50. I've never done anything like it, but I'm looking now at this going, I'm going to give this a shot because it doesn't make me high. It doesn't have any of the psychotropics, the nootropics, or anything like that. It's just another form of medication.
Everything about CBD, it took me about a year to figure it out. I don't understand it still as far as all the components, the CO2 extraction method versus the compression method. I don't care. I don't care how a clock works. If it's working, I don't care if it's battery or electric. For me, the CBD full spectrum that I used a lot of them. I tried a lot. This one seemed to work best for me. I also love the people at Pinnacle. They're just family to me. They're wonderful people. They have personal experiences, how they even got started with their daughter who had grand mal seizures, when she was 11 or 12, and they found this for her, and she's been, seizure free because of it. So nobody can take away the truth about what's happening. Remember what I said about the truth? 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and then it's finally accepted. Right now, we got 26 or 27 states who are allowing medical marijuana for people who are ailing and who are suffering and who are terminal. We've got, I think, 13 states that have recreational marijuana available up to 3 milligrams of nicotine. 3 milligrams of THC for marijuana. And that's the way to the future. Every state within the next 3 years will be legalizing marijuana for recreation and or for medicinal purposes.
Now, the medicinal purposes, I can understand. The recreational side, to me, on a recreational basis, I'm going to say the states are only going to allow it because of a taxation reason.
Sure. But alcohol was the same thing. Prohibition.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who use marijuana, and they don't get in a car and drive, high. They just sit around and order pizzas, and they'll just have a good time and they'll laugh and that make a stupid idiot of themselves.
Now, just one more quick thing.
Do enough research like I have.
Yeah. One more quick thing, because I know you've got a scatter here,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. If you could say something to someone like me that is leery only because of where this is derived from, what might you tell me not to sell it to me, not to get me to try it, what could you tell me that might calm my nerves or ease my anxiety?
Well, if you were to take a full spectrum or even an isolate in the form of CBD oil, or you find it in the form of a gummy bear, or you put it in your coffee, or you put it in your honey stick, or you put it in your dog's biscuit, which we have, for dogs with anxiety and, thunder dogs who hate thunder and lightning and things like that. All it is, it's the benefits of marijuana have always been around longer than you and I have ever been. It was the reefer madness, fear mongering that happened in the 50s and 60s, when reefer madness was all over the place because it was an evil drug, it was a devil drug, and it's not. It's been around for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years. And the benefits have been proven over and over and over again. It's the devil's in the dosage. It's like anything else, Michael. If you drink too much alcohol, if you like a couple glasses of wine at night, you want a couple beers, it's when you do the abundance and go overboard and make an ass of yourself, okay? The marijuana benefits are huge. 435 different benefits known from the marijuana plant. And the way it's extracted is the key. Devil's in the details, and there's no devil in the marijuana extraction of cannabis, okay? And my company that I work with, Kevin Lacey, is an expert pretty much, and Michael Benson's an expert, and his whole family affair. They are so smart on this, and I have to go to them all the time with education. All I know, Michael, it works for me, okay? And it's not expensive. It's $49 for a bottle. It lasts me 3 weeks, maybe 4. I put it under my tongue, 15, 20, 25 milligrams a day, depending upon how I feel. And my bottle is 300 milligrams. Or I can take it in the form of a honey stick in my tea. And I just put the honey stick with CBD in it, and it just calms me down. It helps me sleep. My daughter takes it. She's a nurse, and now she's a mortician. There's people out there that are swearing by it. I don't know anybody that does not like it and that doesn't have benefits for them. So
that's awesome.
The proof's in the pudding. The proof is in. I would probably have said to you, 2 years ago that I would never even bother because I had been so hooked on my OxyContin. and my oxycodone rather, and my Flexerol, and my gabapentin, and my Duexis, and all the things that they were giving me at thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a month. And finally, I titrated myself because I was not going to become addicted to opiates for the rest of my life at their mercy. So all I can tell you is I am living proof, as so many millions of other people are. This is why CBD is coming on strong, because it's legal.
Now, were you able to drop the oxycodone or the OxyContin or anything else? Were you able to get rid of it and replace it with CBD?
Yes. I went from 30 milligrams a day, 4 to 6 pills a day, down to 20 milligrams, then down to 10. Okay, and then finally to 0, to where I don't need them, because you don't stop it immediately. You don't just stop all at once. It's not that kind of a miraculous wonder drug. But what it does, it takes the edge off while you're healing, but you don't have to be hooked on all of the bad side effects from opiates. The opioid epidemic we have now, my doctor was prescribing it every month without giving me alternatives. And I didn't want it as a part of my life. So I took it on myself, researched it, and found that CBD was getting popular. And by golly, I was going to look at every other option, because desperate times calls for desperate measures, because I wasn't going to leave this world as a drug addict with opiates in my system.
See, now, I seriously appreciate you taking the time to tell me that, because for the folks that are listening or watching or catching up on a podcast, you all of you need to hear from me. I am not any way, shape, or form any part of any CBD, nothing, okay? I am not associated with anybody other than having a friendship with David, okay? So the people that are out there listening, the questions that I'm asking about CBD are for my own personal knowledge, or for people that are listening so they might have a better understanding of what the product is, what it does, and why it is on the market and spreading. Okay?
But it's also their responsibility, Michael, to do their own research.
And that's a big one. That's a big one, is that people need to take the time. Don't go running out and buying any Tom, Dick, and Harry kind of product that says CBD. Do your due diligence, people, and research a product before you ingest it, inhale it, eat it. It doesn't matter what. Do your due diligence, because if you don't, you're asking for trouble.
You know, all you got to do is go to www.pinnaclecbd.com. It's very easy. They'll give you all the information, questions. You can look up CBD online, and it'll give you tremendous testimonies. Very few negatives on it, other than people who screw things up. There's a lot of people who are spiking their CBD with higher amounts of THC, which is what's causing a lot of difficulties in some states. Because remember what I said earlier? Do 99 things right, nobody knows. Do one thing wrong, everybody knows.
Yep, and that's it exactly. Okay, one more quick question. And this is one that I failed to ask you the last time because the phone lines and everything just took an absolute shit. It's the poll question that I'm asking people. It started out as a funny, and it's turned into a poll. If there was a cloud competition between Snoop Dogg and Steven Tyler, who do you think would win?
Oh, God. Probably Steven Tyler.
We're going to add one here for Steven Tyler, and that brings us back to a tie of 3-3 so far. And there's a mixed reaction between Snoop Dogg, because he's well known for his marijuana intake and use, and then Steven Tyler, who's got just this massive, awesome set of lungs and belts it out with the best of them.
That's why I said Steven Tyler.
Yep.
You can't sing like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith without having the kind of lungs that would be a better capacity for cloud chasing.
All right,
my friend.
David, I appreciate you taking the time to reschedule and rejoin me on the show. Again, folks,
my pleasure.
David Goerlitz, the former Winston man. Catch his podcasting on davidgmodelcitizen.com. He's got the former shows, and he'll have upcoming shows, but check him out. Take the time, go and listen to him. And plug him wherever you go along, because this is a gentleman that has...
Can I count on you to join me on my podcast in the next week or two?
I am there whenever you are ready. Just let me know, and I will be right there.
All right, my friend. And tell Austin I'm sorry we couldn't talk, but we'll talk anytime. And I'll be on your show anytime you want, my friend, and thank you so much for having me.
David, I seriously appreciate it. Folks, David Goerlitz, former Winston man.
night.
Have a great night, sir.
Good night.
All right, David Goerlitz, and I'm just going to take a minute. I've got to get him. I found an easy way to disengage him from... Oh, he managed to... He's got that meeting all done and gone. That's fantastic. David Goerlitz, the former Winston man, and now I can come back here for just a moment and kind of wrap this up. It was difficult for me to run any of my webcam and trying to pick up all the other software because I would max out my PC. But we'll take just a minute here, just real quick, and we'll wrap up for the night. As you could hear, David has some amazing, and I mean amazing, information. As the former Winston man, the things that he can tell you would probably knock your socks off. I mean, it's an amazing amount of information the man has. And the insights, because he was an insider, so to speak, for Big Tobacco for a number of years. And then being able to switch to vaping, he's become one of the largest advocates, both for vaping and for CBD. And listening to him and being able to talk with him is just fantastic. It has been one of the highlights of the things that I've been doing. So that's David Goerlitz. He gave a thumbs up to Steven Tyler. So again, we're tied now at 3-3 for what we're doing, and we're only going to go to 10. So we've got 4 more people that are going to be weighing in on top of all of that. Oh, it has been an amazing hour and 42 minutes. Again, like David, for Austin Hopper, my apology that I could not get that part of the phone system working because I'm trying to do too much across too many smaller platforms. But I will get it all ironed out because I do want to be able to have all of us talking all at one time. All right, folks. We will be back again next week. I'm kind of up in the air yet who I'm going to have. I'm hedging between 2 different shops, and it's going to come down to do they have the time to catch up and do the show or not. But again, if you would, next week, please join me again, and we will go back and have another call with another shop and be able to talk about some of the things that are going on around them, be able to catch up with a little bit more in the vaping world. Again, at the end of the day today, tonight at midnight is the deadline. I'm going to go back to this just real quick because this is seriously important. Tonight is the last night for the FDA ANPRM. Go to CASA's website, go to the Vapor Technology Association website. There are shortcuts and links abounding all over the place. Go and put your comment for the FDA flavor comment section. It's seriously important. Huge things going on with that, and we'll get into a rant about that next week. As Brent Stafford, my sincere apology. I can't even talk straight. Brent Stafford with the Regulator Watch has done a couple of pieces now on erroneous, crappy, fraudulent submissions, 255,000 of them that they are aware of so far. So every comment that someone can make to the FDA on the flavor comment section, every one that you can do between now and midnight is still has to be reviewed and is massively important. But again, until next week, we will catch up again next week. Next week I'll do a little bit of ranting and we'll get into some of the news of things that are going on. And next week we'll just kind of play it as it goes along and see where we are going to wind up. But in the meantime, I seriously appreciate you taking time to join me. Thanks again to my special guest, Mr. David Goerlitz, former Winston man, had some amazing information. But next week we're going to have a good time. And until then, I hope everybody has a great week and a great weekend. And I'll see you again next week on Vaping in the Mic.